Hi guys, welcome back to We Should Talk, a pop culture interview series from In the Know. I'm your host, Gibson Johns, and today on the podcast we have Jackie Goldschneider from The Real Housewives in New Jersey. Jackie just announced that she has written a new book, The Weight of Beautiful, which is going to be out in September. She completely wrote it herself, no ghostwriter, no help, no anything. And it's detailing her journey with her eating disorder and getting through into recovery and how being on a reality show played into all of that. And I'm just really proud of her. It's so brave of her to share this and be so open about this. And as she told me in this interview, it's really about not only getting it out of her head and getting all these stories onto the page, but also to help other people and to show people there's hope to work through a lot of this. And so it was great to hear about that and hear about her decision to write this book. And then we sort of transitioned to talking about Real Housewives. And one of the things there is that, you know, she's a friend of the season. She's not full time. And part of that decision was to give her more space and time to focus on her recovery. Because even though she was in a better place last spring after the past season, she still didn't, in her mind, she didn't like how she looked. And so she felt that she needed more time to devote to recovery and working through some of that. And she really feels like she's in an amazing place right now, and which is awesome to hear. And we talked about the quote unquote demotion to a friend of from full time and how she was working through that, how that played into her relationships with some of the newbies. We talked about some of the newbies and her thoughts on them. And it seems like Danielle is kind of her number one adversary this season. And then we got into the Melissa and Teresa of it all, which is obviously the crux of the show, and sort of where she is right now with it, when she decides to wade into certain things and when not, how Melissa is doing, because obviously she's closer to Melissa, so she's more privy to that. And then sort of how does this show move forward? I think a lot of people are wondering, can Teresa and Melissa exist on this show without always having to rehash the same thing? Can they coexist and not fight all the time and not be the center of it? I don't know. And as Jackie said, the premiere for this season was the best rated premiere of Jersey in 3 years. So people are obviously tuning in for it. So it's not exactly broken. It's not like, I think there's a lot of noise online that people are sort of fed up with that. But like, if you look at the ratings, people are interested, they're tuning in. So I don't know. I don't know what it looks like moving forward, but we sort of hypothesized there a little bit. Anyway, keep listening for my interview with Jackie Goldschneider. Check out her book, which is out in September. Tune into The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on Bravo. And please rate, review, and subscribe to We Should Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so we're here with Jackie Goldschneider from The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Jackie, you have a lot of good stuff going on right now, and I'm so happy to have you back. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So before we get into the show, I want to talk about the book, which was just announced last week. Congratulations, first of all. That's major.
Thank you.
How do you feel having that news out in the world that you wrote this book?
I'm like, it's the most exciting thing that's happened to me in years. I've always wanted to write a book. Never thought that I would be writing this book, but I wrote it myself. I'm really proud of it. I feel like it's such a professional accomplishment for me. And I'm really excited to get conversations going about this topic, because I feel like one of the reasons I stayed sick for so long was because nobody talks about eating disorders. Nobody talks about diet culture that way. No one talks about like what really goes on with all the secrets and the shame. And so I'm happy to get that, out there into the world.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel like, I guess two things. One is, talk to me about the decision to write it yourself, because a lot of people in your position have worked with ghostwriters, but there's no shame about that, because I think there's a lot of people need help sort of putting their stuff into words on the page. But you decided to write it completely yourself. And why did you decide to do that?
No one knows this. It was a rocky process. I had an agent first, and I wrote 2 chapters, and she said, "It's good, but I think you should get a ghostwriter." And I said, "But I'm a writer." And she said, "Yeah, but I think it could be great with a ghostwriter." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'd rather have a book that's good that I wrote than a book that's great that someone else wrote." And then I said, "You know what? I could have a book that's great that I wrote if I'm with the right agent who's going to give me a little bit of like feedback and tell me and direction." So I switched agents, which was scary, but it was the best thing for me. And I rewrote the chapters, and just with a little direction, they were like fantastic. And the book turned out I mean, everything fell into place the way it was supposed to. Once I got into the groove of writing it, I can't imagine anyone else putting into words the things that I felt, because most of the emotion came through in like my third, fourth draft, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine having anyone else write this book but
Mm-hmm.
me.
And was the process for you kind of completely reflection on everything, or had you been journaling at all? Like, what was it based on? So
No,
it's completely just like just coming from inside of you and harkening back to things.
yeah, it was crazy. It's like I've had all of this in my head for 20 years. Well, more than 20 years, because it actually, all the distorted eating started in childhood.
Right.
But I've had all these stories in my head for so many years. And they were things that like were really traumatic that I thought, well, they happened and they just make me who I am. And to be able to like actually get them out and get them out of my head, I remember everything in such detail. I remember what the meals looked like, what the starving looked like, all of it. So it's actually like, it was almost scary the way I like just shut down and would go inside my own head and like sit in a room and just write for hours, you know, but it's great. It was very cathartic.
That was my next question, which is like, does it feel like something has lifted from you getting all these thoughts out? Like you don't have to hold on to all of that necessarily anymore?
Yeah, not only that, but like I see the way it all happened. Like for me, it was always just like fragments of sickness and like
Mm.
eras of sickness. And like now I can see the whole story. Like this is why it happened. And this is what happened while I was going through. And this is how I started to come out, you know? But also, like, I wanted to give other people, without sounding like self-righteous, like I wanted to offer a little hope, because when you're that sick, or like even if you're not that sick, even if you just like think about your body all the time and you say like, is this ever going to end? And I wanted to give people like a little bit of like hope, or like a roadmap for like, you know, if you like, this is how you can come out of it, you know,
Hmm.
because it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, I feel like recovery is a constant thing, but ultimately, like you, I think to a lot of people probably represent some sort of, I mean, look at where you are now. You're writing a book about it. You're on a show and you're in this amazing position and you are sharing your story and you're choosing to share your story. And I think you're right. I think people, there's no way people can't look at you and think, okay, yes, there's a way to get through some of this. And your
Thing.
book is going to help
Yeah.
that.
I hope so. And also, like, besides from me, like, even if you didn't know me, it's actually a really good story. Like, it's a great, like, journey to follow. It's really interesting. And then the whole reality show part of it, you know, trying to, like, keep all these secrets. And, like, I go through, like, scenes that I was filming where you could rewatch the scene and, like, know what was in my head. And I think, like, the whole thing
Wow.
is just really interesting. I hope it transcends, like, reality show fans and goes really
Totally.
widespread, because it's an important topic and it's a very well done book, and I'm super excited about it.
Well, I'm excited for you. And I wanted to read just a tiny bit of excited a question about this. The book description says that in a twist of fate, becoming a reality TV star saved your life, saved her life, it says. Is that because of sort of the magnifying glass that reality TV represents, or is it like the reflection that it kind of forces you into? Can you explain just that
Yeah, I'll
sentence?
explain that. I would say probably once a month for 20 years, I would wake up and say, that's it. I'm stopping. Like, I'm
Mm,
going to get help. I'm going to find a way out of this. I'm going to do it. And then it never would happen. Never, because it was only me holding me accountable. I wouldn't talk about it to anyone, including my husband or my parents or nobody. Um, I would never admit anything. I never said the word anorexia. So it was only me holding me accountable. And I never, ever, ever followed through. And then when I really found out about some like health issues and I knew that I had to stop, I said, I think that the only way I'm going to stop is if I let the whole world know, or
mm.
however many people watch reality shows, know that I am very sick and that I have to stop. And I promise the world that I'm going to stop, then I'm going to follow through, because I'm not going to look like a failure.
So it's having everyone else, it's having a million people holding you accountable, essentially.
Yeah,
It's part of it.
and also knowing that people with eating disorders might have been watching me to see if it's possible to recover, and I was
Sure.
not going to send the message that it's, you know, it's too hard.
Hmm. So transitioning a little bit into obviously the show, in your interview with Dave Quinn at People to announce the book, you kind of explained that the decision to make you a friend of this season actually aided a lot in some of your recovery. It was sort of a turning point in your recovery because it gave you a little bit more space and time to focus on certain things while also having the show to focus. Like it kind of split your focus in a welcome way. Was that at the beginning of filming? Was that sometime in the middle of filming? When did that sort of discussion and decision happen?
You mean the friend decision?
The friend decision, yeah, but also like it sounds like it was sort of a like kind of a mutual discussion that was had. That's what it sort of sounded like.
Like I knew when the talks for season 13 started, which was in early-ish spring. I knew that I was not okay. I was trying so hard to act recovered, but I had gained weight. So to the world, I looked like I was recovered.
Right.
But in my head, I was like, there's a problem because I hate what I'm looking at. And like, I hated looking in the mirror and I hated my body. And I said, this doesn't feel right. And I just knew that like, I just wasn't okay. And I was afraid, even though, I mean, like my ego so badly wanted to be back full time. I knew that it wasn't a good decision. And I think the show knew that it wouldn't be a good decision based on what I said. And yeah, I mean, that's hard. It's hard to like, was I happy about stepping back? No, but it was, like in retrospect, it was the best thing I could have done, And I'll tell you, it wasn't even that different. Like the season, like I definitely had more time and space to concentrate on recovery. I got to recover privately. I got time to start thinking about the book, although I didn't sign a book deal until the season ended. So I wasn't writing the book during the season, but, like I was so happy to do it publicly last season, but I think I needed the time to do it.
Time. Totally.
Yeah. And also knowing that like, as a friend of, like, I wasn't going to be like in any massive drama, was really helpful to me too, because I used to use food a lot to, like, I used to soothe myself with like starvation tactics. It felt good to me. And I needed to make sure that I like was past all of that by the time I jumped back into something like the Jersey Housewives.
Right. Which, yeah, exactly. But it sounds like you're still going to be there for like a majority of the group events. You're still very much around
I'm at every
there.
group event. Every group event.
Unless Danielle organizes it.
Yes. No, fortunately, she doesn't organize anymore. So,
and so that really is the biggest difference, that you don't really have the just too many like
personal storyline.
Right. Totally.
No personal storyline. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like, so you said that sort of in retrospect, that was the best decision for you. And I totally agree with you. But does immediately, because it was kind of a hard thing to probably deal with, sort of not being a full-time person, because that's a big change in your life in terms of just the routine of it all and stuff. When they bring in 3 new people who are sort of, it's unclear if they're going to be friends or full-time probably. And some of your early in the season, some of the stuff is with some of the newbies. Does that create some sort of a friction between you and them?
In the very beginning, it was awkward, if I'm being honest. I think that nobody at the beginning, I don't think anyone knows what their role really is.
Yeah.
And anything can change. So I think they looked at me as a threat and I looked at them as like a threat. And then I think after a few weeks, Jen Fessler and Rachel became 2 of my closest friends. Jen is like has since become like my best friend.
Oh, really? That's so fun.
Attached to the hip, yes. And Rachel, I'm very, very close with too. Danielle decided she didn't like me right from the jump. And so that, whatever. I don't really care about that. But like, I also know that like, I stand alone and like my job is not dependent on them having their jobs. I don't look at them as competition. So I was fine with them.
It's just sort of like a meta. There's kind of like a meta read to that. I think the first couple episodes, Jess. I'm sure you settle into it, but yeah.
I will fully admit that I was like, what am I doing at the beginning? And like your ego, listen, it is an ego hit. Like whether
anybody would feel that way.
Part in that decision. I mean, it's like weird. And it feels bad to like suddenly take like a dip and, and what I used to struggle with a lot, which therapy helped a lot. And it was part of my eating disorder too, is that I worried a lot what everyone else thought about me,
Of course.
which also kept me sick for a very long time. And that's something that I am so much better with now. So I really I actually enjoyed being a friend. I think this was a good season to be a friend because it is
Yeah.
very, very aggressive this
Right.
season. And yeah, I had a good time. And two of the three new girls ended up being very close friends.
Awesome. Yeah. And I feel like, I mean, it's interesting because the friend of role is such like it's almost like an undefined thing. It can take so many different levels. I mean, we have like Kathy Hilton and Marlo Hampton who have been like such, substantial friends of. They're essentially cast members. I feel like that's probably kind of going to be what you're going to be this season. Like there isn't that much of a distinction. So it's like, I think it's a great position to be in, honestly. I really do.
Yeah, it's definitely undervalued.
Yeah, I agree. So what else can we, I mean, so it sounds like you and Danielle I feel like we're laying the groundwork for some, maybe some fireworks there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean she's just she's really aggressive and a big personality, and just doesn't communicate the same way that I do. But she gets in my face and she's like, I don't know. She's like a child. Like she behaves like a child. So I don't really think that much of Danielle. I mean, when she gets in my face, I'm gonna put her back in her place. But like I'm not gonna make myself look bad on TV for Danielle, you know.
She is a riot to watch so far, though. I mean, I'm very curious to see what you guys have in store, but she just makes me. I can see how being on a cast with her would be an interesting thing to navigate, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, you'll see.
Right. Okay. So obviously a large crux of this season again is Teresa versus Joe and Melissa and sort of how everything sort of, you know, places in around that. And you and Melissa are such good friends. And I guess, already it's so intense on social media and she just gets put through it so much by like a very loud, I think, minority of people online. And I'm curious if that's something that you see. Or how do you guys, I don't know, discuss that as the show is airing? Because it's a lot to be put through. I think, I mean, for any of you, but I feel like she gets a lot of the heat. And as her friend, I'm curious how you, I don't know, help her through that at all.
Yeah, I mean, well, I always let her know that I'm here for her. Um, I don't get involved at all because that's lose lose, and I don't think she would even want me to be involved. But I always remind her that I'm here for her, and if she ever wants to talk about anything, we talk about it. But I feel bad. Sometimes I wish that she could just like not react and not respond. But I know, like I've been through it too on
Mm-hmm.
social media, and I know that you sometimes feel really compelled to respond. So it's just, I think everyone feels bad about this situation. Um, and we wish it didn't
Yeah.
happen that way, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, and it's
Yeah.
got to end somehow.
What are your current thoughts on the Teresa, Melissa, and Joe of it all? Like, where do you stand right now? Because I feel it's just a constantly evolving situation.
Yeah, well, obviously I'm closer with Melissa
Of
and
course.
Joe. So I feel like, I mean, something that the viewers you'll understand why they did not go to the wedding when by the time the season is over. And I don't see a way that anyone would say they still should have gone. That's
Mm,
just my opinion. So I understand why Joe and Melissa are so upset. Um, and I understand why they didn't go to the wedding. So for me, I feel like I'm with Joe and Melissa on it. I'm not saying Teresa and Louis are wrong because obviously I'm not privy to everything, but I think Joe and Melissa made the right decision, and I feel for them in this situation.
hmm. And so when it comes to like little smaller things that sort of kind of roll up into this whole thing, like the thing from over the weekend that was like the when Joe ran into Joe Judice, and then there's the whole fallout from like the comments on that and the coverage of that, or it's like the thing on the show where they're getting mad that Melissa's parents weren't invited or what have you. Like Do you like, is it like you said, it's sort of a lose-lose for you to even weigh in on stuff like that? Or how do you, because you guys are all
Oh
sort
my
of,
God, I commented on Joe Gorga
oh,
running into Joe Giudice,
what'd you say
and I
there?
got like slaughtered
Right, that's what
just
I'm
for
saying. Like,
saying I
is it
love
even
this.
worth it? Is it even worth it?
You know what? I didn't even really think that like anyone would have a problem with me saying I love this. And to be honest with you, I did love it. I loved it because it was two adults who were fighting for so many years that saw each other and decided to behave like adults and decided to let like all of that melt away, and we're happy to see each other. And say what you want about opportunism, but like Joe Judice had a huge smile on his face and was hugging Joe Gorga and was holding Joe Gorga, and like, say what you want, but like they were really legitimately happy to see each other. So yeah, I did love it because it was people moving on, and everybody would like people to start moving on in this situation, and nobody is. So I did love it, but the internet didn't love that. So I got attacked. So is it worth it to weigh in? I'm not sure.
Right. And it's so funny because I feel like they get called opportunistic for even filming it and putting it online, but it's like that's sort of like part of the job description that you guys have, which is to document these things and put them online. So like,
Right,
I don't
right.
know. It's
I know what like I mean I don't I mean even the other day people were like, how dare you talk about Danielle's clothes? Well, I mean, like, I'm on a reality show. You want me to just sit there and like not be invited and like twiddle my thumbs? I mean, like, I'm on a show.
we're gonna fire
Give me
off some comments. Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
So actually, I mean, I guess Melissa said on Watch What Happens Live that you didn't really mind that she told Danielle what you had said about what she was wearing. You didn't
I
mind?
didn't mind. No, and I think by now I kind of probably knew that she was going to.
Right.
I knew after the fact it wasn't why I said it, but no, I don't care. I mean, if you're going to go out of your way, I think that it's very, very mean to have a group of 9 people and invite 8 of them anywhere. I
Yeah,
wouldn't do
that's
that.
tough.
That reminds me of high school kind of nonsense, like childish, stupid. I'd rather you call me and have an argument with me over the phone than completely exclude me from like a cast event. I think that that sucked. And I think it was a crappy, childish way of going about letting someone know that you don't like them, especially because when I did look at her outfit, she didn't even know. I think she found out in retrospect and decided she didn't like me way before that. And I I didn't feel bad about the comments, and her shorts did look like they came out of the laundry. So there you go.
Well, also in the footage that shows that moment of you greeting each other, you're giving her the up down, but she's already walking in front of you.
Yeah,
So
she's past me.
she doesn't have eyes in the back of her head. So I was just
Right.
confused by
That's what
that.
I'm saying. Like she didn't even know. She didn't even know. I think at one point I like looked at her like wrist to see. I like to look at people's outfits. I love clothes. I love accessories. I like looking at people's outfits. It's not me looking in like a bad way. I think everyone by now knows that I'm not like an evil person, and I try not
Of
to be
course.
judgmental either. But like when you piss me off, when you invite 8 people and not the ninth, then you're gonna get it.
It's also like when housewives walk into a scene together, that's the first thing they comment on is the outfit. We do the up down. We look at the look, That's part of
Of
it.
course.
Of
Of course.
course.
I don't know. She was
Yeah.
just looking for a reason to hate me.
Of course, of course. So I mean, so there's obviously a lot to come this season that went down last summer and leading up into the wedding, and obviously intrigued to see what actually leads to the decision for them not to go. But you know everything, where things stand, and I think a lot of fans are wondering how the show can possibly move forward with both of them coexisting on a show together because they can't really it seems like they can't really coexist without it rehashing things again. So
Yeah.
where does your mind stand when it comes to that? What do you think the show looks like in the future? Not to get ahead of ourselves, but I think it's a
Yeah.
natural question that people are asking.
Yeah, it's really confusing because you look on the internet and people are saying, "Oh, I'm tired of this. I don't want to see this fighting anymore." But the ratings are the highest that they've ever been. So
I know.
so I think a lot of people are confused like, do you want to keep seeing this? People tune in for it clearly. So
I do.
um I don't know. I feel like how do you change a cast that's getting the highest ratings ever?
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, and
except to bring you back full time. Like, how do you? I'm just kidding. How do you change the cast
I'll
other
sign
than
that
that?
petition,
Right.
right? Exactly. Yeah. No, yeah.
But
And
you
it's a
know,
family
like,
show.
yeah. So I would love to see everyone stay and work through it. I don't know how realistic that is, though.
Hmm.
I don't know. I wish I knew how it would go down. If I could script it, they would all find a way to make peace and love each other again. But I don't. I don't know if that's in the cards.
Yeah, it's tough because they're such. I mean, they've both been around for so long, and they're still. I mean, you all bring it and still deliver. So it's. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words about the whole thing.
I know. Why? What do you think will happen?
What do I think? What do I want? Um, I mean, I
You
don't
think
know.
one of them will go?
I don't want either of them to go.
Yeah. I mean,
I think that like if you were thinking from a natural evolution standpoint, Teresa marrying Louis and then starting this whole family, like if she wants to go out on that, there's no better way to go out on that. But I don't think she wants to go out like that. And I
no,
don't think she should. I don't think
either.
she should, but I think Melissa and Joe are such great presences on the show too. And it's just and I think the argument that neither of them can exist without the other is also kind of nil. Like I don't know. It's hard to
Yeah.
imagine the show with either, but without either.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I agree.
it's tough. Well, Jackie, can you give us one more tease for what's to come on this season? Because we're still very early. And
On this season, oh my God, there's so much. Well, I mean, Ireland was the best cast trip that I've ever taken. And I think
really,
that Ireland has so much. Like I can't wait to get to that. But even like once on the trips, like even the shore trip that we take to Jersey Shore is so good.
I love a
It's
short
so good.
trip.
And there's a lot of fun. There's fun, but there's also like tons of drama. So I think that like you've got some good trips coming up.
Hmm. Is there
Stay
like a
tuned.
particular is there like a particular dynamic or relationship that you think that we should be paying attention to that might blossom into something more divisive or unexpected friendship, or is there something we can pay attention to early on?
Um, I think I would pay attention to some storylines that maybe don't sound like they're a complete story. Maybe like someone is omitting information. Um, there is one thing that we filmed where Jennifer just did something so outrageous that you all will like just I mean, it's just so ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen Jennifer do. Um,
I'm scared to
I
see
don't know.
it.
There's a lot of like ridiculous stuff. Like not ridiculous, but like there's just so much
Over the
drama. Every
top.
time I walked into a scene with high hopes, I would walk out like exhausted. Yeah, there is no shortage of drama. You're not going to turn off any of the episodes and be like, that was boring ever.
I would never expect that from you guys ever, ever,
Yeah.
ever, ever. Well, Jackie, this is so much fun. I am so proud of you for writing your story yourself, and I can't wait to read it. And I'm also excited for this season. I think there's obviously some dark sides, but it sounds like it's going to be fun and entertaining as well. So
Yeah.
we're in a good place.
Thanks, Gibson. I always love talking to you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to We Should Talk. I hope you enjoyed the interview. You can find out more about In the Know at intheknow.com. You can follow me, Gibson Johns, at Gibsonoma on Twitter and Instagram. And you can listen to all of our interviews, past and future, by searching We Should Talk wherever you get your podcasts. Hope to see you next time.